The moment my heart stopped, everything changed. It was like being ripped from one world and thrown into another. 1 second, I was in control, and the next, I was surrounded by a light so fierce it felt like it was tearing through me. There was no escape, no hiding. Every mask I'd ever worn, every lie I told myself, it all crumbled. And then I saw it. The real me. The version I'd buried so deep I almost forgot it existed. Let me tell you, nothing prepares you for that moment. It's not peaceful, it's terrifying. But what I saw next, that's what changed everything.
Before we proceed into this extraordinary testimony, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more life-changing testimony like this. And as you watch, think about the moments in your own life that have shaped you. Share your thoughts or even say a prayer in the comments. It might just inspire someone else today. Now let's get started with this gripping tale of survival and revelation.
My name is Emily Carter, and I'm from a quiet little town in New Zealand. I used to be an interior designer, obsessed with creating perfect spaces that looked flawless. Funny, isn't it? I spent so much of my life focusing on appearances. I had no idea that one moment would change everything, literally everything, and show me how much of my life had been a lie. It happened on a chilly evening, the kind where the wind howls through the cracks of the windows, and you feel grateful to be indoors. I was alone at home, wrapping up a project for a client. My heater had been acting up for days, and as I reached to adjust it, a sudden, violent jolt of electricity tore through my body. My heart stopped, and my world went dark. The pain was immediate and unlike anything I had ever felt, like fire coursing through my veins, tearing me apart from the inside. My vision blurred, and then everything around me just collapsed. There was no sound, no light, no warmth. For what felt like an eternity, I was falling. And then in a heartbeat, I wasn't Emily Carter anymore. I wasn't anything. I was gone. But I wasn't alone. Out of the void came a presence so overwhelming that I couldn't breathe, even if I had lungs at that moment. I was standing, no existing, before Jesus. His eyes pierced right through me, seeing everything I had ever done, everything I had ever thought. There was no hiding, no excuses. My soul felt exposed, as if all the masks I'd worn to impress the world had been ripped away. And what he showed me next, I don't know if I can ever fully explain it, but I have to try. I was shown the truth about my life, and one thing stood out, something I never expected: makeup. It sounds absurd, doesn't it? Makeup of all things. But I was made to see how I had used it, not as a harmless accessory, but as a tool to feed my vanity, my pride. Jesus showed me how each layer I applied wasn't just about looking good. It was about hiding insecurities, hiding the person he had created me to be. And worse, it was a form of idolatry. I had spent so much time worshiping my appearance that I had no time left to worship him. It was like watching my life on a screen. Every time I stood in front of a mirror, layering on foundation, lipstick, eyeshadow, I thought I was enhancing myself. But I wasn't. I was rejecting what God had already declared good. I saw the ripple effects too, how my actions influenced others. Women who looked up to me, who felt they weren't good enough unless they did the same. It was devastating. I begged him for mercy, sobbing like a child who knows they've done wrong. And then he spoke, not with words, but with this deep, unshakable truth that filled every part of me. Emily, I love you, but you have to stop hiding from me. Those words shattered me. It wasn't anger in his voice, it was heartbreak. He didn't hate me for my sins. He grieved for the time I had wasted on things that didn't matter. And then, just like that, I was back. I gasped for air, my chest heaving as paramedics worked to restart my heart. My body felt heavy, but my soul felt even heavier, because now I knew the truth. The question was, what would I do with it? You see, I didn't come back from death just to share a story. I came back to share a warning, because maybe, just maybe, you're doing the same thing I did. Maybe you're hiding, maybe you're chasing a version of yourself that God never intended for you to be. And if you are, you need to hear what's coming next. Don't go anywhere. This could be the moment that changes everything for you too. When I stood before Jesus, everything was laid bare. It wasn't just my actions or my words that were exposed. It was my intentions, my heart, my priorities. I thought I was prepared to face my life, but I wasn't ready for what he showed me. It started with something that seemed so small, so harmless. I was shown a mirror, but it wasn't like any mirror I had seen before. In this one, I could see every moment I had ever looked at myself, every stroke of makeup I had ever applied. I saw my teenage years, experimenting with eyeliner and lipstick, trying to look older. I saw my 20s, when I wouldn't leave the house without layers of foundation and contouring. I saw my 30s, where every blemish was hidden, every imperfection erased. I thought it was just a part of life, normal, harmless, even empowering. But it wasn't. Jesus showed me how each time I reached for that brush, I wasn't just enhancing my face, I was hiding my soul. He revealed the root of it all: pride, vanity, insecurity. Every layer I put on was like a veil between me and him. Instead of seeking my worth in God, I sought it in the reflection of a mirror, in the compliments of strangers, in the fleeting satisfaction of looking perfect. It wasn't beauty, it was bondage. Then the revelation grew darker. I saw how the cosmetics I used were tied to something much bigger. I watched as the products I had bought, so innocently, were linked to industries that exploited people, profited from greed, and celebrated vanity. I saw the spiritual weight of my choices, not just on me, but on others. Jesus showed me how I had become a part of this chain, how my example encouraged others to chase the same illusion of perfection. It broke my heart. And then he showed me the most terrifying thing of all. I saw myself standing at a great distance from him. Each layer of makeup I had ever worn was like a brick in a wall, separating me from his presence. It wasn't the makeup itself that was the problem. It was what it represented. Every time I chose to prioritize my appearance over my relationship with him, the wall grew taller, thicker, until I couldn't even see him anymore. I realized I had spent years building that wall with my own hands, all while thinking I was just being me. I remember crying out, asking why no one had told me. Why didn't anyone warn me that something so ordinary could have such serious consequences? And that's when I heard his voice again, clear and filled with sorrow. You were told, but you chose not to listen. He showed me moments where I had heard the truth, little whispers in sermons, fleeting thoughts as I stood in front of the mirror. But I had ignored them. My heart had been too consumed by pride to hear his gentle warnings. When the vision ended, I was left shaking, shattered. I understood then that the enemy doesn't always attack with loud, obvious sins. Sometimes it's the quiet ones that trap us, the ones we justify, the ones we think are harmless. I had fallen for the lie that beauty was power, that perfection was happiness, and it had cost me so much more than I ever realized. If you're watching this right now, I need you to ask yourself, what are you building between you and God? Is it a bridge or a wall? Because sometimes the things we hold on to the tightest are the very things keeping us from him. Don't wait until it's too late to see the truth. There is freedom waiting for you, but you have to be willing to let go. I was falling. That's the only way I can describe it. The moment my soul left my body, I felt this pull, a sickening plunge into an endless void. It wasn't peaceful or calm. It was chaos. Everything around me was dark, like the light had been swallowed up. My thoughts raced faster than I could control. Is this it? Is this where it ends? Then the memories started flooding in. I could see my life play out, frame by frame, like a twisted slideshow I couldn't turn off. Every moment I had hurt someone, every lie I told, every time I ignored that quiet voice in my heart, it was all there. I couldn't escape it. Each image hit me like a blow to the chest. The pain wasn't just emotional, it was physical. I felt every wound I had caused, every tear I had made someone cry. And in that moment, the weight of my actions was unbearable. I thought, there's no way out of this. I've gone too far. I've done too much. And that's when it happened. I heard the voice. It wasn't loud or angry. It was steady, strong, and filled with a sorrow so deep it pierced through the fear. It said, "Why are you running?" I froze. Running? I didn't even realize that's what I'd been doing. Running from accountability, from the truth, from God. But now there was nowhere to hide. Suddenly, the darkness shifted. I was standing before a blinding light. It wasn't like the sun or a lamp, it was alive, and it seemed to reach straight into my soul. And there he was, Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, but not in the way I expected. There was no anger in his eyes, no judgment, just sadness. Sadness for me, for what I had done to myself, for how I had wasted the gifts he had given me. I fell to my knees. I couldn't speak. What could I possibly say? But before I could even try, he showed me something that changed everything. I saw my life, this time not as a slideshow of failures, but as a path. And on that path, I saw all the times I had been given the chance to change. They were everywhere. Every warning, every nudge in my spirit, every moment of conviction, they were all there. I hadn't been abandoned. I had ignored him. I started to cry, deep, gut-wrenching sobs that came from the core of my being. I was certain this was it. I was beyond saving. But then he reached out. His hand touched my shoulder, and the love that poured out of him was unlike anything I'd ever felt. It was pure, and it wrapped around me like a shield. And then he said something I'll never forget. It's not too late. I didn't understand at first. How could it not be too late? I had done so much wrong. I had been selfish, so blind. But he wasn't looking at my past. He was pointing to my future. Repent, he said. Turn back, and let me restore you. In that moment, I realized what repentance really means. It wasn't just about saying sorry or feeling guilty. It was about surrender. It was about laying down everything I had been holding on to, my pride, my excuses, my shame, and letting him lead me out of the darkness. The light grew brighter, and suddenly, I was back in my body. I was gasping for air, my heart pounding like it was about to burst. But I was alive. I had been given another chance. A chance to make things right, to turn my life around, to follow the one who had saved me from myself. And that's what I'm doing now. Every single day. If you're listening to this, let me tell you something. It's not too late for you either. No matter how far you think you've fallen, no matter how heavy the guilt feels, there's hope. But you have to stop running. You have to turn around and take his hand. He's waiting, just like he was waiting for me. Don't miss this chance. Don't let pride or fear hold you back. Redemption is real, and it's closer than you think. I was falling, spiraling. It was like being trapped in a whirlwind of my worst fears and regrets. Every mistake, every lie, every chance I'd wasted flashing before me like an unforgiving reel. There was no ground below me, just endless, suffocating darkness. I wanted to scream, to grab onto something, anything, but there was nothing. Just the hollow echo of my own thoughts screaming back at me. And then I stopped. Not gently, not like some miraculous rescue, but like I hit an invisible wall, slamming into something that forced me to confront everything at once. I was suspended there, stripped of everything I thought I was, titles, roles, even my name. It was like standing in front of a mirror, but the reflection wasn't mine. It was raw. It was truth. It was the person I tried to bury under layers of denial. Then a voice so clear and so terrifyingly real. It wasn't angry, but it wasn't comforting either. It asked me, "Do you know who you are?" I couldn't answer. How could I? I didn't know anymore. My life had been spent chasing what others said I should be. I was a stranger to myself. Suddenly, the darkness began to shift. Shapes started forming, faces of people I'd hurt, people I'd ignored, people I'd loved but never told. And then, a light. It wasn't warm or inviting, it was piercing, like it saw through every defense I'd ever built. And then I knew. The voice wasn't asking me who I thought I was. It was asking me who I was meant to be, the person I was created to be. It was the most humbling and terrifying moment of my existence because I saw the truth. I had been living a lie. That light didn't show me what I wanted to see. It showed me what I needed to see. My excuses, my justifications, they crumbled. And in their place, a truth so undeniable I couldn't run anymore. I had spent my whole life hiding from it, but in that moment I understood. To live in denial of who you are is the greatest tragedy of all. I woke up gasping, my chest on fire. I felt like I had been given a second chance, but not the kind you get to squander. The kind that demands you rise up and stop pretending. The kind that dares you to embrace the person you were always meant to be. So I have to ask you, are you ready? Ready to strip away the masks, the lies, and face the truth of who you are? Or will you keep falling, hoping the darkness won't catch you? Because it will. Trust me, it always does. So here's my plea to you. Stop waiting. Stop telling yourself you'll change tomorrow. Tomorrow isn't promised. I've stood on the edge, and let me tell you, it's not a place you want to be when you're full of regret. Examine your heart now. Fix the broken relationships. Right the wrongs. Take the step you've been too afraid to take. Because one day, You'll stand where I stood, and you'll wish you had. Don't miss the chance you have today. You're still breathing, which means there's still time, but the clock is ticking. And trust me, you don't want to face the end carrying the weight of what you didn't do. Make it count, starting now. Don't wait until it's too late. Find the truth now, embrace it, live it. Because there's nothing more terrifying than realizing you ran out of time before you ever truly lived.
What an incredible journey, right? If this testimony moved you, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button to show your support and make sure you're subscribed for more powerful stories like this one. And here's a challenge. Leave a prayer or a word of hope in the comments. Let's create a space of encouragement for everyone who visits this video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.